So good to have you here. My name's Donovan, one of the pastors here at the church. Are you doing a call from the lobby? All right, come on. If we all get silent and then stare at everyone when they come in, that would be wonderful. It would make everyone feel good. Okay, I got a couple of announcements for you as we're allowing people or waiting for people to come in. So we have a discipleship program that's going on. Our journey, it's called The Journey, and Journey 2 just started. So this weekend, we've had 3 of our 4 tracks that have started, which is fantastic. We've had a really good go, and evangelism is the one that we didn't do, and that one starts next week. But there's already been, we had a testimony in the first service of someone who had given his life to the Lord and was here, and oh man, I wish I could tell you like his story. It was just tremendous, his journey, and he came here and he just felt like God spoke to him the whole time. And this is like brand new, doesn't know anything about God, and God has met and encountered him and drew him over the course of a number of weeks and was here today. So we're excited to get into evangelism next weekend, and we've done the first 3 already, and so that is really exciting. But a preemptive one to that is what we call Journey 1, and so it's our intro to discipleship, I guess, intro to like Anchor Point Church, and this is where you can build deep relationships and friendships. We're going to learn lots of things together, but I think everyone in the church should participate in the journey at some point. And so if you are able, we are doing it on a Sunday instead of on a Saturday this time, so Sunday afternoons, starting on February the 5th, Sunday at 2 o'clock, 2 till 5. Abby and I are going to run it together, and it goes for 5 Tuesdays in a row. And I said at the first service that we had 11 people signed up, but I wasn't running it without 15. And there was a whole group that was planning to sign up already. So I think we're like 17, 18, 19 that are signing up. So that's fantastic. And I would love to encourage and invite you. And if you have not done it yet, you should talk to someone who has. So if you have done Journey 1, can you just put your hand up so someone can just come talk to you? Okay, so go talk to them. Look around, go talk to them. Then you don't, it's like the guy running, it's like, no, seriously, it's awesome. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's that good. Okay. So we're in a fast, and if you didn't know that, welcome here. The church is in the midst of a 3-week media fast, and one of the primary focuses for us is that map on the wall. This is the community that surrounds Anchor Point, and we've kind of narrowed down, instead of saying we're going to pray for the entire world, we're going to narrow it down and say, God, we would like to see significant movement in this part of the city. And if God would do such a significant movement here, then perhaps it's possible for this community and this one, and that's what we're excited for. So we're the dot kind of in the middle, the upper part of the middle. To the right is Church of the Rock, and we have been doing a couple of prayer and worship nights with them. So we did one on Tuesday this last week, and we're going to do the next 2 Tuesdays are going to be here at the church, 7 o'clock. So if you'd like to come and pray and worship together with 2 of the churches that are in the community seeking God together, it'll just be fantastic. And come ready to host. Just come and love them. They were so blessed when we got together at their place last week that everyone just came, and as soon as like, okay, we're going to get into a group and pray, we just didn't keep to our own. We just went and snagged people from the other group. We're like, we're part of one body. We're doing this together. So would love it if you would come and join us. That's one of the things happening during prayer and fasting. On the 29th of this month, we are ending our fast in the evening. There's a group of 7 churches that I've been meeting with, or the leadership team we're meeting with. We've done a number of one body events, and we're doing a final worship celebration night on the 29th here. That's a Sunday, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and that's how we're going to end the fast. They're all doing fasts as well for different things, and we're going to get together and worship and praise and adore him and give thanks for what he's done over this time. And lastly, one of the other churches that is in this community is Sanctuary House of Prayer, and they are just a little lower down. The dot is not there yet, but it will get on there. And Sanctuary House of Prayer, they've committed to praying for the city. They've been coming in. You'll see on the wall we have papers up there that tell you the schedule for the prayer room of when it's open and when things are happening. So from 5 o'clock in the morning till late in the evening some days. Next Saturday, we have a huge event going on where all day we have different things going on for prayer and worship. And so look at the schedule. Sanctuary House of Prayer comes and they do a number of devotional sets, which is they start with a worship song and then they just sing and worship God, and we're in here and we just love it. And if you haven't had a chance, come and spend some time. Today at their church at 3:30 to 5:30, if you want to come join me there, we're going to worship together and pray in their building, and they are praying there every Sunday afternoon. But if you'd like to join me, then we'd love to have you there at 3:30 today. All right, those are my announcements. You got them? It's all clear? So you're all signing up for Journey 1. That's perfect. Everything's locked in. We'll see you for sure on February the 5th. Okay, perfect. Okay, so clearly prayer and fasting is something that we're talking about, and we're going to continue on there today. And so I had this interesting thought process that I went through that I want to take you on today. Okay, you ready for it? You have to use a little bit of an imagination, although I will give you everything, so your imagination doesn't have to be that wild. But any of you ever heard of a guy named Elon Musk? Oh, you have? Okay. So Elon Musk is coming to visit us. This is the thought imagination going on. And Musk wants to open up a Tesla plant in Winnipeg. And he's looking for a CEO of the Tesla plant in Winnipeg. He heard that at Anchor Point, there are engineers galore. In fact, every person in this church is an engineer. All of you are engineers. Not just one engineering degree, you all have 3 engineering degrees. That's smart, okay? Are you with me? I know it seems unrealistic, but just work with me here on it. So now you have to imagine it's like just you, like Elon is talking to just you, but each of you have to imagine that he's talking to you. You are like ecstatic. This is like a dream come true. The door is open. You're getting the opportunity of a lifetime. You're going to be the CEO of a Tesla plant. And he says to you, listen, whoever you are, I'll provide all the finances for you. Everything will be put together. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, however you need it, you just ask and you get it, okay? Whatever it is. But you're it. You're the person. The buck stops with you. Every opportunity is before you. You take it. You run. Make the plant. Get it working. Let's get Tesla happening in Winnipeg. You go home and you are pumped, right? You're like, I got this. And you go and you're like, I'm the CEO, like no big deal. You get some shirts made promptly, like CEO boss of Tesla. And then you realize there is nothing that is made in Winnipeg. Like there's no Tesla plant. Like, so you're like, what do you do first? Like, do you buy an excavator and start to dig a hole? You've never built a building. Like, are there plans? Like, do you call somebody? Like, he didn't leave you anything. And you go from extreme ecstatic joy because you're the man or the woman, and you go down to like depression because the buck stops with you and everything is at your hands and you don't know what to do. That's a good spot to be, right? So you go back to your little contract that you wrote up with him, and you start looking, and as you look through the contract, you realize that there's something that you missed in the contract. In the contract, it says, here's a pair of special goggles for you, okay? So if you ever run into trouble, he made a deal with Google, and they're doing this thing, I know. And so he's like, here are these special goggles for you, and you just put those things on, and anytime you're in trouble, you just put on your goggles and ask a question, and Elon, he doesn't sleep, I've heard. He'll be like right there, and you just put them on, and you'll be able to hear him, and he'll be able to show you through these special goggles whatever you need to fulfill your task. You got it? So you're like, Elon, do I get an excavator? He's like, well, you could. That's a neat idea, but maybe we have a different plan. Like, we need to drop some plans. Like, where do we do that? You're going to have to find an engineer. It's like, oh, okay, engineer first. I got to get an engineer. And wait a second, I am the engineer. It's like, that's why I hired you. All right. So you walk down this road and you realize every time you throw those things on, and he'll give you insight. He can show you visually what's supposed to happen, and he can tell you anything you need. There's just one stipulation. When you need help, you got to put the goggles on and ask a question. You got it? Okay, so this is my scenario to prayer and fasting. Here we have someone he's brilliant and very, very wealthy, so I've heard. But like we're talking about like God, okay? God is above all, beyond all of that, way more access to money because he can just make it. Like he thought of the idea of gold. He can just anything that is necessary. And I think sometimes what we do in the church, it's like, I have a call to change the world. Okay? No, God called me to be a pastor. God called me to do this. God called me to start a daycare. God called me, whatever it is. It's like you have a calling. And then we're just going to pray that calling into existence. Like, God, Elon, make it. Just make it. He's like, no. I hired you and I called you. I want you to be the one to build it. I want to work with you and I want you to know every bit about the process of putting together the plant. And God's like, I don't want to do magic tricks for you. I want to work with you. There's one stipulation. You got to put the goggles on and you got to ask a question. So God's like, I'm calling you to be a pastor. It's like, God, I don't know how to be a pastor. I don't know what that looks like. God, what do you want me to do? And maybe the first step is you're coming and you're just cleaning toilets, right? Maybe you're going to learn to serve. I don't know what God is going to tell you. But I think what we do is we look there and then we just declare things like, God, miracles, God, bring revival somewhere. And he's like, actually, I need to ready you and strengthen you and prepare you and lead you. And will you follow me? I have all the answers. I could do it on my own if I wanted to, but I want to do it with you. So put on the goggles and be like, okay, God, I'm in. God, what do you have? What are you saying? And allow him to lead. That was the thought pattern that I went through as I was preparing for today. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to build. So the theme that we're on clearly is fasting. And we talked last week that fasting is, in essence, giving up something to create time and space, increased amount, to spend with God. To spend with him and to know him and to long for him. It's the idea of he is the bridegroom. We are the bride as the church. We're going to have a marriage and a union one day, but it's growing in a depth of love and intimacy and relationship with God. And so it's freeing up time. So we give up something like media, and we say we're going to put that time into seeking you, God. But I want to add to that today, and I want to build on that. And I think where I want to go is, as I'm reading about all of the fasting in Scripture, it seems like there was always a purpose to the fast. It wasn't just fasting as an end to itself. It wasn't like, if I fast, then I'll get something. The fasting wasn't the part that accomplished it. The fasting was just a means in which you give something up or you posture yourself in humility to say, God, there's something that's going on. And the length of the fast was more determined by the purpose than it is by the length. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to fast 3 days. That could be good, but actually sometimes we need to fast until there's a breakthrough, right? Like, we think of the story of Anna in the Bible who fasted for 60 years. Now, it wasn't nonstop, but she lived a life of fasting and prayer for 60 years because she read a prophetic word that the Messiah was going to come and believed it was going to be in her day. And she didn't stop until she held the Messiah. So the fast length and the fast that you do isn't the end. It's, why are we fasting? What's the purpose of the fast? What is it you're seeking God for? What are you giving up something, food or media or these things, sleep? You give up something on the account of God. I'm pressing into something. There's something that I need. So what's the purpose? So today we're going to look at a number of different types of fasts. I've been reading through a book called The Rewards of Fasting by Mike Bickle, who started International House of Prayer in Kansas City, and they've committed themselves to 24/7 prayer around the clock. They intercede and they pray for years and years, like 25 years or something. And so I figured they had quite a bit to learn about, or they had quite a bit to teach, and I had quite a bit to learn about fasting. Yeah, I sent him a letter and told him what he needs to learn about fasting. Just 1 second. Almost through my cold. A little bit of antibiotics and then away you go. So Old and New Testament, I'm going to share a number of types of fast. And it doesn't really matter, I don't think, if it's an Old Testament or New Testament, if the fast itself isn't the answer. It's people of God wanting a change or needing something or have a purpose on why they're fasting. So we're going to look Old and New Testament examples, and we'll try to, in the next 20 minutes or so, get through that. So the first one, fasting to experience the power of God in your personal ministry. So you are ministering to people and you want the power of God to experience it in your life in increased measure. There's a number of examples of it. One I shared last time, the disciples come, there was a young boy who was demonized. They didn't know how to get him set free. Like, we did everything. Jesus is like, actually, this demon won't come out except by prayer and fasting. You're like, oh, they needed power that would come, something that would come. They needed something in addition, and they needed the power of the Spirit that was going to come through prayer and fasting. Jesus began his public ministry, and how did he start it? 40 days of fasting is how he started it. And at the end of the 40 days, it says this in Luke 4:14. Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit. And news about him spread through the whole countryside. He was teaching in their synagogues, and everyone praised him. I was thinking about like our little community. It's like we have strategies and ideas and plans, and we believe we're hearing God, and he's giving us some insight. But I was like, God, please don't ask us to do 40 days water only in the wilderness all alone. And then we come, and then it just news spreads everywhere, and the community gets saved. But what if he did say that? Would any of us do that? There's a lot of examples of this. The early church, every Wednesday and Friday, they prayed in the early church. Every Wednesday, not prayed, fasted. Every Wednesday, Friday. Why? They wanted to experience more power. They didn't want their life to be normal, just like everyone else except we're a Christian. They wanted like the power of God upon them. Andrew Murray, he's a famous South African church leader, and he himself, as he was reading about the people who had been fasting and praying, he's like, I'm in, I got to do that. And he regularly fasted and prayed. Charles Finney, one of the most powerful preachers in American history ever, he reported leading, get this, 500,000 people to Jesus in 8 weeks in New York City in 1857. 500,000 people. That's almost the entirety of Winnipeg in 8 weeks. This is the difference between natural ministry, which is necessary, and supernatural when God comes upon, and one of the gifts is through this. He writes this, through prayer and fasting. He writes this. Finney wrote that when the grace of prayer left him, his preaching became as weak as other men. When this happened, he would spend several days in prayer and fasting until the spirit of prayer returned along with power on his preaching. Can you imagine preachers in the church today if we live that way? This is looking at me, right? If we live that way, oh man, we come to church and it might be different. He proclaimed that the power on his preaching was connected to regular times of prayer and fasting. Quote, I was led into a state of great dissatisfaction with my own lack of faith and love. I felt myself weak in temptation and needed frequently to hold days of fasting and prayer in order to retain communion with God that would enable me to work in revival with power. Oh man, do we need a connection with the Lord. Many, many. George Whitefield, Jonathan Edwards, David Brainerd, Charles Wesley. There's lots that go on and on and on. John G. Lake. Any of you heard of him? Early 1900s. You've heard of John G. Lake? Probably the best of all time. He was an insurance guy. Not an insurance woman. He was an insurance guy. So you're off the hook. Yeah, he was an insurance guy in Chicago. And he wanted breakthrough and signs and wonders. And it's said that there's an estimated 500,000 miracles that happened, including many, many people who were raised from the dead under his ministry and leadership. Whoa, that would be good. Mahesh Chavda is still around today, still alive. The Secret Power of Prayer and Fasting was the first book that got me going. He did 2 40-day water-only fasts a year. And he is the one today that people would look to say the most amount of miracles seem to happen under his watch. And just nonstop, and in particular, people who are possessed by the demonic are being set free, and people from around the world go to see Mahesh because they get delivered when they're with him. Isn't that crazy? To me, that is just wild. So perhaps God calls us into something like this. And it's not just the big names. There's people in the quiet, people who never wrote of it, people who weren't famous for other reasons, like in Anna, that were just fasting and praying. I'm not saying fasting is the answer. In fact, if we just grin and bear to fast, I think we're going to have trouble. But when God asks you to fast, or there's a purpose that is needed and you begin to fast, I think at that point we're going to see massive moving and working of the Holy Spirit that we maybe haven't seen before. Number 2, fasting for prophetic revelation of something or times that are to come. So seeing into the future, what is coming. The old covenant to the new covenant. There's so many prophetic words in the Old Testament saying what the new covenant era, what we live in today, was going to look like. So many. And I believe that God, he says in Acts 2, in the fulfillment, he's saying, sons and daughters, everyone will be able to prophesy. It's like, why does he need more prophets? I actually think because he needs an increase of prophetic word for what's going on. We need to hear from him because he has a plan in which the whole earth is to be saved. That's what we sung, right? The whole earth would hear, and we need prophets to hear, people who would know what the voice of God is saying so that we move in that kind of work and with that type of power, right? Like that would be a stunning thing. I think one of, my great favorite stories is Daniel. Remember Daniel? He has lots of really good things like the lion's den. We know these ones. But it says this in Daniel chapter 9, starting at verse 3. I won't read all of it, but he reads in the prophet Jeremiah that Israel is going to be desolate for 70 years. And he reads this, and his response out of Israel not being well, and it's coming near the end of the 70, he has a response, and it says, so I turned to the Lord God and pleaded with him in prayer and petition, in fasting and in sackcloth and ashes. This was his response to reading a prophetic word that he believed the Lord was now showing him because it was coming near the end of the desolation. So he's like, he would have known, okay, the 70 years is here, and this is it, God, I'm sorry. And you read the rest, it's like, we are wicked, we have rebelled, and he just confesses on behalf of all of the children of Israel. He's like, I am so sorry. God, you've fulfilled your word. We've blown it. You are faithful. We are not. And he goes on and on and on. And then it says this, while I was speaking and praying, confessing my sins and the sin of my people Israel, and making my request to the Lord my God for his holy hill, Jerusalem, while I was still in prayer, this is crazy. Gabriel, the man I had seen in the earlier vision, came to me in swift flight about the time of the evening sacrifice, and he instructed me and said to me, Daniel, I have now come to give you insight and understanding. Can you imagine Gabriel, like one of the archangels, coming to visit you because you prayed on behalf of the people, because you believed a prophetic word? I don't even know what that life is like. There's so much to grow in. As soon as you began to pray, a word went out. It's like God sending the word, who will go? And Gabriel's like, I'm in, which I have come to tell you, for you are highly esteemed. Therefore, consider the word and understand the vision. One righteous person, here's a prophetic word, cries out to God, and God goes on to calling Daniel one of the greatest prophets ever, as he foretells so much of what is to come. Daniel got insight into the deepest things and the deepest heart of God. Third, fasting for the fulfillment of God's promises to our city or nation. This one struck me as I was reading through the book, because I'm thinking in particular about this, and I'm so desperate to see revival here. Like anytime someone from our community just walks in, and we have it every couple of weeks, or someone who's like, I just woke up and I needed to go to church, and so I just walked to your church. And I'm like, what? So maybe you're here today, I don't know. But every time I'm like, God, this is your spirit that's drawing. And I'm looking at this saying, the fulfillment of promises that he's already made. Anchor Point has had some prophetic words that have been spoken over her. One of the prophetic words is about this community, that God is going to do a work in here. And this is going to be a place where people are going to want to come and live because there's going to be something about his spirit that is here. That's amazing. We're probably going to need some people that are going to pray and fast that into being, right? Like in the community, praying and fasting. Also, we're supposed to train up and send pastors all over the country. Maybe we need it more like Finney, where the Spirit of God comes in with power and, 500 just real quick in 5 years, boom. Like I can't imagine sending 5, but like 500 in 5 years. And that to me is stunning. So there's a number of these types like that. So Daniel is one of them. Daniel, God had said that he would restore the Israelites from the 70-year captivity as slaves in Babylon. And when the Persians conquered Babylon, Daniel prayed and fasted for the fulfillment of God's promise. And as a result, they were released from captivity. A few years later, Nehemiah, he's another one that came in, said that there was stuff that was going on. It wasn't good. He prayed and fasted and God answered. Prophetess Anna, I just talked about her, 60 years. Jesus, as he told his disciples, he's saying the harvest is plentiful, the workers are few, but he's telling them in John 4, it's like, you didn't do all the work. Just because people are coming to know me now, you didn't do all the work. There's many prophets before you, people who have gone on before you, who have planted many things, and it's working together. And we need evangelists, and we need those that will pray and fast, and together we work for the building of his kingdom. Oh, yeah, for sure they were. Yeah. Even Josiah, one of the young king of Israel, he fasted and prayed as well, which is like he's 8 and he takes over a wicked nation and he's like, we got to fast and pray. Stunning. Number 4, fasting to stop a crisis. So fasting to avert something that is going on. I'm going to rush through this one because I'm looking at what the time is here. The prophet Joel, Israel faced several divine judgments, locusts, drought on their agriculture. Babylonian army was preparing to come and invade. And so there's these things that are going on and we need to pray and we need to fast and we need to repent, and it was relented. Prophet Jonah, he goes to prophesy, right, to Nineveh, you will all die. Their response, fast and pray in sackcloth, and God had mercy on them. Big crisis, that was the purpose for the fast. It wasn't like they should have 8 weeks earlier. It might have been cool for them to fast, but this is like, they're responding because there's a crisis and they don't know what to do. And all they have is we're humbling ourselves before you. Would you have mercy on us, please, God? It's a wicked nation. And together they turn their eyes to him, and God has mercy, of course. Moses on Mount Sinai, he goes up, right, 40 days, and he's chiseling the tablets, and then he comes down and all the children of Israel are rebelling. And God's like, I should have destroyed them all. And Moses is like, rips back up the mountain, and on behalf of them fasts another 40 days, chisels new tablets, and God has mercy on the children of Israel. Ezra, many others. Sorry, we're very close to being done with that. Sorry for those online if I got you in the ears there. We see in 1588, the Spanish Armada, I didn't even know what this was. I had to read about it. England's leaders called National Days of Prayer for several different things, and this is one of them because there was a threat that was coming. Later, they fasted because of Napoleon. He was preparing to invade England, and then again during World War II, George VI called a day of prayer and fasting while the Battle of Britain raged, asking God to stop the Nazis from invading. In all of these situations, crisis was averted. There was some crisis, but it wasn't they didn't get destroyed the way it was intended. To me, that is stunning. It's a mystery. It's God, we need you. It's like, I don't know. It's like a child coming home and saying, Dad, you can take anything that you need, but I have a friend, and my friend is not well, and my friend needs help, and you can sell everything I have. We just need to help them. What dad isn't yeah. What parent isn't yes, let's do that. Let's help. It's I don't know, it's this longing. It's God, you have all of me. I'm giving up food, God, because you are more precious and valuable. It's like saying, God, I give up these things. I put on these goggles, the Google God goggles. I put them on. I say, God, I need to see. I'm going to come into this place. I'm going to wait because I need to see you. Hannah and David and King Josiah and King Ahab and King Manasseh, all of these were ones that in the face of crisis fasted and prayed. We see Esther, she fasted and prayed for protection for the people. That's the number 5 for protection. There's lots I can do, but I'm just going to keep going through. How about fasting for direction? That would be the 6th one. Paul, remember when on the road to Damascus, he gets blinded? Then immediately he fasts for 3 days because he's like, I don't know what you want me to do, God. And he waits because he needs clarity and direction. And so he fasts. We see in Antioch, Paul and his team, they fasted and prayed for prophetic direction. And they got a missions assignment to not just reach the Jews, but to reach the Gentiles. And that came out of prayer and fasting. We read this in Acts 13, verse 1. Now in the church at Antioch, there were prophets and teachers, Barnabas, Simeon, all of these people in there. While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. So after they had fasted and prayed, they placed their hands on them and sent them off. It's like, why? They dedicated time to seek God, and he's like, we don't know who to send. God, who do we send? Barnabas, Saul. Oh, really? That's simple. Oh, that's it? Okay, come up. Oh, lay hands on, whoop, whoop. Maybe dump some oil on you, kick them on, whoop, whoop. And churches planted. They're like gone. Missionaries, they're off. Can you imagine that type of church planting strategy? Oh God, would you lead us there? Paul and his team again prayed and fasted. They needed to select and commission overseers all over the place. New churches in Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch. Acts 14, when they had appointed overseers in every church and prayed with fasting, they commended them to the Lord in whom they had believed. Just so good. And finally, fasting for encounter and intimacy with God. This is what Bickle calls the bridegroom fast. This is what I talked about all of last week. The disciples of John, Matthew 9, came to him saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast? And Jesus said to them, can the friends of the bridegroom mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them, and then they will fast. When Jesus was on earth, they got really accustomed to being in his presence. You imagine that? Like, if you've seen The Chosen, I just want to be one of those people that jumps in and like sits with Jesus and walks with him. And sometimes I get angry at like Simon. I'm like, can you just stop your attitude? But I like really like him because he's feisty. They felt cherished and they would have felt loved and their friendship was deep and they would have felt like this joy of being in his presence. And he's like, it's not going to last. And he's like, I'm going to die. And they're like, no, God, no. And we'll go to death for you. He's like, well, actually, you're going to thwart the plan of God. And that can't happen. So like, no, I actually will die, but it's better that I die. But you will have a longing for me. But I'll go and prepare a place and I'm going to come back and get you. I'm going to come back and get you. But when I'm gone, then you're going to fast. And you're going to fast because you're going to long for me. You're going to want to remember and know and be together with me. So set aside time, set up much time aside, and my Spirit will come and be with you and will comfort you and be near you. And it'll be as good as being with me, except it's all the time. It's like in the middle of the night. It's like when you're out walking. It's not just when you're with him. It's everywhere you go, my Spirit was with you. And this became the pattern in the life of believers since that time, since Pentecost, where we have the Holy Spirit to dwell and walk in intimacy and abundance with him. But so often we choose to just throw the goggles down and leave them aside and be like, we got this, God. He's like, are you kidding me? Like, I got quadrillions of dollars, right? I got access to everything you can imagine. I have a plan for the entire earth. I'm drawing you and calling you. Get the goggles on and just ask me. That's it. God, I'm here. God, I'm here. And if he doesn't say something to you today, tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and you keep until he shows you, here's the next one, and here's the next step, and the next step. Fasting and prayer are so often linked together. I'm excited to know what it does. Every time I preach a message on fasting, I'm deep conviction because there's enough in Scripture that propels me. And I'm like, God, I just don't like it. But I know when I'm in it, like right now, it's like the closeness that you experience with him because the distractions are gone. You're like, God, I'm in. And I just want to go deeper. So with our fasting, let's have purpose. Let's have purpose. Maybe the purpose is to fall in love with him more, but maybe you need direction from God. Fast and pray. Maybe there's crisis in your life. Like maybe you're struggling, you have a struggling child, or you've been falsely accused, or you need work. There's a crisis of some sort. Ask him. Fast and pray. Perhaps you want more fruit in your ministry life. Like you've never spoken to anyone about Jesus, or you haven't led someone to Jesus. Fast and pray. Say, God, like, what do you see? What's the next step? Maybe he'll reveal to you. Maybe there's prophetic revelation of what is to come. That'd be a good purpose. Or maybe you need power in your personal ministry life. Whatever it is, fast and pray. I think this is the response throughout all of history, throughout all of God's people, to fast and to pray. To end it, I'm going to read out of 1 Corinthians 2, and then the worship team can come up. So this is the Apostle Paul. And the Apostle Paul is writing about being an ordinary person, but being filled and empowered by the Spirit. And it says this, "And so it was with me, brothers and sisters. When I came to you, I did not come with eloquence or human wisdom as I proclaimed to you the testimony about God. For I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. I came to you in weakness with great fear and trembling." This is the guy who wrote and started the Christian movement all over the known land at the time. "I came with great fear and trembling. My message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power, so that your faith might not rest on human wisdom, but on God's power. We do, however, speak a message of wisdom among the mature, but not the wisdom of this age or of the rulers of this age who are nothing, who are coming to nothing. No, we declare God's wisdom, a mystery that has been hidden and that God destined for our glory before time began. None of the rulers of this age understood it, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. However, as it is written, what no eye has seen, and what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things of God is prepared for those who love him. These are the things God has revealed to us by his Spirit." This is what he wants to be doing. "The Spirit searches all things, even the deep things of God. For who knows a person's thoughts except their own spirit within them? In the same way, no one knows the thoughts of God except the Spirit of God. What we have received is not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit who is from God, so that we may understand what God has freely given us. This is what we speak, not in words taught us by human wisdom, but in words taught by the Spirit, explaining spiritual reality with Spirit-taught words." The warning: the person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness and cannot understand them because they are discerned only through the Spirit. The person with the Spirit makes judgments about all things, for such a person is not subject to merely human judgments. For who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. That is the greatest. We have the goggles at any moment of any day, accessible to us always. And he's like, would you come? Would you just come and ask me? That's it. Like, everything is accessible. Would you just ask me? Would you just come to me and ask me? I am willing, I am open, I'm eager, I'm excited. Just ask me and I'll tell you and show you, reveal to you how to walk it. We have the mind of Christ and he invites us into that. Amen? Amen? Let me pray. God, thank you for today. Thank you for truths in your word. Thank you for the things, God, that you've been teaching us and revealing to us and reminding us, God. Jesus, I am so sorry that so often I think my human ideas are really, really good, and yet I have access to the one who made the idea of human ideas. You created all things, God. Would you cause us as a church to hunger to get before you, hunger to wait upon you, God. God, would we eagerly desire to come and to be near you, that we would hear your voice, that you could entrust secrets of heaven. God, that you would give insight on how to take steps in our walk with you, how to grow in intimacy, how to deal with crises, how to have more power, God, for people to get saved and to know you and to be set free and to be healed, God. God, we don't want to do it out of effort. We want to do it out of a prompting by your Spirit. We want to do it because of your voice, oh God. So, Spirit, would you come? Would you come and rest upon us? Would you teach us and remind us and lead us and direct us? God, would you give us just the courage enough, the faith enough to just put the goggles on and say, God, I'm here. God, I'm here. What do you want to say? Thank you, God, for this morning. Be glorified. Amen.